Nuclear weapons, the most destructive tools ever created, capable of obliterating entire cities, killing millions, and leaving a legacy of devastation for generations. But what if this nuclear bomb detonated on a flat Earth? What would happen in such a scenario? Flat Earth is the idea that our planet is not a globe but is instead shaped like a flat disk. This concept is based on ancient beliefs that existed before modern science proved the Earth is round. Some people, called flat earthers, still believe in this idea today, even though there's a lot of evidence showing the Earth is a sphere. In flat Earth theory, the planet looks like a giant flat surface with the North Pole at the center, the continents and oceans spread out around it, and at the edges, there's often an ice wall, which is believed to keep everything from falling off. This ice wall is thought to be Antarctica. The sky above is imagined as a dome, kind of like a snow globe, with the sun, moon, and stars moving inside it. Instead of the Earth spinning, flat earthers think the sun and moon move in circles above the flat surface, creating day and night. But what will happen if a nuclear bomb explodes on a flat Earth? What impact would it have on the supposed edges of the Earth? And could humanity recover from such a catastrophe? In this exploration, we'll break down the immediate and long-term consequences of a nuclear detonation on a flat Earth. When a nuclear bomb explodes on flat Earth, the first thing it will unleashes is an unimaginable amount of energy. In less than a second, a blinding flash of light brighter than the sun would engulf the area. This flash is so intense that it could cause instant blindness to anyone looking at it within a large radius. The nuclear explosion would unleash an intense flash of light and heat, vaporizing everything near the blast site instantly. The energy would spread out evenly across the flat surface, forming a perfect circular wave of destruction. And like a spherical Earth, there would be no natural curvature to deflect or contain the energy, allowing the destruction to reach further in all directions. The explosion would also send out a shockwave. The shockwave from the blast could trigger earthquakes, especially if the explosion occurs near fault lines or unstable ground. The pressure would ripple through the Earth's crust, causing massive tremors and cracks in the surface. Buildings far from the explosion zone might crumble, and entire landscapes could shift under the force. As the fireball rises, it forms a massive mushroom cloud, carrying radioactive particles high into the sky. On a flat Earth, these particles have nowhere to settle naturally. The winds, unrestricted by curvature, spread the fallout across vast distances, poisoning the air, water, and soil across the entire plain. People exposed to radiation would suffer from burns, sickness, and long-term health problems. Entire communities could become uninhabitable. Plants and animals exposed to radiation may die or struggle to survive. Food crops might become too toxic to eat, and drinking water could be unsafe. After one day of this incident, invisible radioactive particles from the mushroom cloud begin to settle on the ground, contaminating everything they touch. On flat Earth, these particles spread farther due to uninterrupted wind currents, covering vast regions. Entire ecosystems within the blast radius are destroyed. Rivers and lakes become toxic, killing fish and wildlife. The ground is scorched, making it impossible for plants to grow, and the intense heat creates fires that merge into massive firestorms, consuming everything in their path. These firestorms can burn for days, creating choking smoke that blocks sunlight and suffocates survivors. And if the explosion occurs near a body of water, tsunamis could flood coastal areas, adding to the destruction. After day 5, radioactive particles continue to spread, carried by wind and rain. They settle on farmlands, forests, and cities far from the explosion. Rivers, lakes, and even Antarctica's icy edges could become polluted with radioactive material. This would poison water supplies, making it unsafe for drinking or agriculture. People exposed to the radiation would begin showing symptoms of radiation sickness, including nausea, burns, and severe weakness. Areas near the detonation would remain uninhabitable due to intense radiation levels. If there are edges to the flat Earth, the explosion's shockwave could disturb the ice walls, possibly melting parts of them if the heat reaches far enough. After a year, the nuclear winter would likely be at its peak. Temperatures would plummet, leading to failed crops, mass starvation, and the collapse of ecosystems. Many species of animals and plants would go extinct. Humanity would face a massive loss of life due to hunger, disease, and radiation-related illnesses. With the flat Earth's edges under constant pressure from environmental shifts, the Antarctica-like ice walls might further weaken, potentially destabilizing the supposed boundaries of the world, which could lead to more flooding. After 30 years later, certain areas near the detonation site would still be highly radioactive, making them uninhabitable for decades or even centuries. While some parts of the flat Earth might begin to recover, the scars of the explosion would remain visible in destroyed landscapes and decimated ecosystems. Survivors would face long-term health issues, including increased rates of cancer and genetic mutations passed down to future generations. If the edges of the flat Earth had been damaged significantly, the environment there might look completely different. The once mighty ice walls could be reduced, leaving parts of the Earth's surface vulnerable to further collapse or flooding. As we've explored the devastating effects of a nuclear bomb on a hypothetical flat Earth, but now, let's step back into reality and examine with one of the history's most tragic events. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These were not theories but real moments in time that forever changed the course of humanity. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped an atomic bomb named Little Boy on Hiroshima. 3 days later, on August 9, Fat Man was detonated over Nagasaki. Both cities were obliterated in an instant. In Hiroshima, an estimated 70,000 people were killed instantly, with tens of thousands were injured and highly affected with radiation. In Nagasaki, over 40,000 died immediately, with the death toll eventually surpassing 70,000. The force of these bombs was unparalleled at the time, creating fireballs over 1,000,000 degrees Celsius, flattening entire neighborhoods, and releasing deadly radiation. A fair 5 days of the bombing, survivors known as hibakusha faced unimaginable suffering. Those close to the blast experienced severe burns, blindness, and radiation sickness. Fires raged for days, consuming what remained of the cities. Black rain, radioactive fallout mixed with soot, poisoned the land, water, and air. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and many victims perished from injuries or radiation poisoning. A year after the bombings, rebuilding efforts were underway, but the scars were undeniable. Many survivors developed cancers and other illnesses due to radiation exposure. Globally, the bombings marked the start of the nuclear arms race, as nations sought to harness the power of atomic energy for war. 30 years after the bombings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the cities had been rebuilt, thriving once again as symbols of resilience. However, many survivors continued to suffer from radiation-related illness, and the memory of the bombings remained a powerful reminder of nuclear devastation. On around Earth, the damage from the explosion and radiation spreads, but the Earth's curved surface and atmosphere help contain it to some extent. On a flat Earth, the harmful radiation and destruction could continue for decades, possibly centuries, because there's no way to contain it. This would poison the air, water, and soil everywhere, making it almost impossible to recover. On around Earth, even after the terrible loss of life and destruction, people eventually rebuilt Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Survivors adapted, and the cities became vibrant again. On a flat Earth, survival would be much harder, with radiation spreading everywhere. Finding a safe place to live, grow food, or access clean water could be impossible. Humanity might not recover at all. Whether on around Earth or a flat Earth, one truth is clear: nuclear weapons have the power to destroy not just cities, but entire ways of life. These events teach us the importance of preventing such disasters in the future and striving for a world free from such threats.